Yeah, with that, I will turn it over to you, John.
Great. Angela, thank you so much. What a good looking crowd here today, guys. It's a great turnout. I know that this is a topic that's been a buzz certainly the last couple years and gained momentum in the last 6 months or so. But just another word about SBDC real quick. I am one of the lead consultants, been involved about 2 years. Um, my passion is entrepreneurs and helping small businesses and grow, and there's not a better vehicle than the SBDC. So I've thoroughly enjoyed it and been able to, have interaction, had some impact. But I applaud you all. There's wonderful resources that SBDC has available, and I would encourage you all to take advantage of them. I've conducted over my career lots of webinars and have attended several more than that. But in my opinion, and what we're going to do today is I'm going to do an interview type webinar, the kind that I've had experience where you have the PowerPoints, that's kind of robotic. And I want it to be more involved today and even more interactive. So I'm going to be doing an interview and I'll introduce Steve here in just a moment. But what I would encourage you to do is to take notes. And if you have questions, go ahead and chat them immediately. And then Angela will be able to field those. And we're going to do an interview for about 30 minutes. And then after that, I encourage questions and I encourage you to dig down to the to the nitty gritty level. I think you're going to be impressed with the background that Mr. de Guzman, that Steve brings, and you'll want to question him and ask him more in-depth questions. My feelings about AI, and I'll tell you just briefly, is um, I, everyone has a fear of AI in a lot of respect. My opinion, and you've probably heard of it, my opinion, AI is truly a flame, and we're going to make a choice to either draw heat from it or to get burned. And that's really what we're here to help guide today. It is a phenomenal tool if used correctly, and if not, it'll burn you up. And another thing that I'll add, and I'll just throw in as an axiom real quick, is there's an inherent fear, and I will represent that AI will not take your job. Someone who uses AI will take your job. So it's here. We've got to learn to embrace it, and we've got to learn how to utilize it. But that's really what our discussion is about today. So a couple years ago, I was working with another startup, and I was involved with investment banking and with M&A, and we were having a problem. We were spending about 40,000 a year on outbound marketing and not getting results. And another friend that worked there with me said, "I've got a friend. You've got to meet him. He's this tech genius." And he introduced me to Steve. And Steve came in and simply stated, we started utilizing a product that he had developed, and it incorporated AI. And we were able to, within the first week, achieve some remarkable results that just gained momentum. And later, it transformed the company enough so that I said, and got with Steve, and I said, we should take this and apply it to several other verticals. And that's how Steve and I got together. So I've known him a couple years. And we've co-founded. He's the founder. I've jumped in. I'm co-founder with him of Rahava Press. There's several different areas that we focus on, but we've decided to preliminarily focus on one. Steve's going to discuss that a little bit about with you today, but today is the holistic high view of AI in small business, and not particularly on what we do. So that being said, Steve, please introduce yourself, and then we'll start down our agenda.
Hello, everyone. Glad to be here. John used the term genius, and I started to look around because that's not usually in the same sentence as my name. Maybe a little, some other things, but not that. But thank you, and happy to be here. I've got a real long background, storied, I say, in tech. I started in the 80s, starting to date myself. I've been in mainframes. I worked for Arthur Andersen. They're now a company called Accenture, but mainly been in the information technology world for accounting, outbound call centers, credit cards, and then current days through today and how it's being used in the office. I'm a former Microsoft certified systems engineer, And I say former because in 1998, I was challenged by a rock band that wanted me to do their website, but they said if I use anything with Microsoft, I couldn't work with them. So I said they had to give me one of their albums, and they gave me the album. It was a band called Linkin Park, if you've heard of them. I helped do their very first website, and all of it was on open source. And that's what brought me, that and a friend is what brought me to AI. And I'll tell you more about that. I'd rather let John ask questions instead of me pontificate and let you guys ask some questions. So, John, you're on mute.
So Steve, tell us just a little bit more as way of a background here, just to establish some credibility, not credibility, but just some of your relationships. You had a surfing buddy. Tell us about him real quick.
Yeah, so what John's talking about is back in the late 70s, early 80s, there's a friend of mine, his name's Ted Tanner Jr. He used to, he like, we were surfers, and he was a data, like one of those guys that just like to do data. There's no explanation for people like that. This guy's a graduate of MIT. He's got a PhD in mathematics, and he was able to somehow convince the NOAA, the National Oceanic Atmospheric Association Administration, to give him all the data back in the 70s. And we took it to the College of Charleston and dumped it. And he called me up one night and he goes, "Man, I'm within 67% of predicting the waves height accurately." And the reason that matters is because where we're at in Charleston, 3 feet is a big wave in Charleston, South Carolina. So you can get up. So he went on to form some other companies. He just sold the most recent one he sold. It used to be called Pocket Doc. He sold it to Amazon, I think about 5 years ago. It's now called Amazon Health. And he was critical in getting me involved in AI because our relationships over the years, you know, even though it evolved around that, I was always intrigued by what he was doing. So we stayed in touch. And back in 2004, I'd launched a real estate company that was all online. It was all technology based. There was no office. You could literally, we were saving people money by rebating. And he came to me and said, "Man, I like your idea. I've got this artificial intelligence program." Now, mind you, this is in like 0405. And what he did is he said, "I have developed a predictive analytics program that uses Bayesian problem solving, which is some kind of mathematical predictive analytic." And what he did is he was able to predict on our website at Rahava back in 06 when we launched it. He was able to predict what people wanted to read, and not only what they wanted to read, but he was actually able to scrape that from the internet back in 05. And we would have people, we had one of the busiest websites ever. So I tell people, we were the first real estate website to ever have artificial intelligence. And what it did was it made it so that people kept coming back, right? And the stickiness of it was so strong, and it was so it was a big deal. He ended up selling that technology to Forbes in 08. It was called Belief Networks, and he sold it for around $15 million to Forbes. And just to give you guys a background, Ted's like one of those IT guys you've probably read about. He's done TED Talks. Some people say they were named after him. That's what I say. But he has got copyrights on iOS, Apple Music. He helped build the original Microsoft Office that ran on 98, if you know what I'm talking about. And so fast forward, and they've taken this stuff, and basically with Google's help, they have donated all of this technology. One of the big things about AI that I tell people is this stuff is open source. It's free to you. It doesn't cost you a dime to get the interface and use it a way that you want. Might cost you money, but if you partner with somebody, or you want to run your own version of AI using ChatGPT, it is open AI. That's why it's called that, and that's because of Google.
So Steve, let me jump in here and direct us here in the background. I love, but let's start down the topic, and flows into exactly what you're saying. So everyone knows the term AI. Very briefly, what is it? And then tell us after that, what's the importance of it you see on small businesses?
Yeah, artificial intelligence is a technology. It uses algorithms, math, and behaviors that are compiled over time. And combined with machine learning, these things allow you to predict things. And really, more importantly to me, I find the most benefit from AI in automation and doing things that I know are repetitive. And in AI, it allows you, in these most recent changes in technology, allow us to do things like, if we have the same kind of conversation with somebody in an email, it'll start to predict that conversation using your past emails. Literally today, I believe it was yesterday, or it's going to be this week. Microsoft has introduced Copilot. If you don't know what I'm talking about, just go to Google and type in Microsoft Copilot. This is the best example of using AI, John, and what probably most people would get the benefit from. I've been a tester on that because of my background with Microsoft, and I could tell you, and John has seen it, I've had complete everything from the spreadsheet to the business plan to other things, all basically suggested from prompts. And what it does is it takes your catalog. So if you're on your computer, you're running a local version of Windows, this thing will then start to take your background and incorporate it into your answering. And over time, based on your responses, it builds replies that you approve. So therefore making almost these repetitive tasks very simple and automated to the point where it'll say, hey, somebody called you back. Do you want to send them a message to book an appointment on your calendar? And you just hit yes, and it's done.
Yeah. And Stephen, I know in our preparation for this, we discussed a brief outline, and I think what you and I agreed on, some of the advantages that we see for small businesses from AI are increased efficiency, productivity. You can enhance your customer service, personalization. It's data-driven decision making, cost savings and resource optimization. So that all flows into exactly what you just said. And I think what people aren't aware of is sometimes what the initial implementation costs are of AI. Yeah. And you just touched it a little bit. Some of these resources, most of them are free. Yeah. So what are your thoughts then on, if we start talking about, what does it cost a small business to use AI?
Well, I still think Microsoft does one of the best jobs of providing small business with like a complete Office solution, and then embracing this move into Copilot is probably going to be one of the biggest things that's ever happened to technology. I think everybody, I'm just doing, you got to remember I haven't used Microsoft since 1998, when I was officially forced to quit using it in order to do development for that band. I've come around, and I'm telling you, in the last 2 months, this thing, they put the biggest investment into this. I think in terms of cost savings, it'll become very apparent as you start to use it, especially what I found is I'm using things I never used.
So what other sources, you're saying that, what other things you're using? What might you suggest to this audience would be some resources for, everybody says use AI, and small business person go, okay, how do I, or where do I get it?
I think you start with the source. The guys who donated the technology is Google, and Bard is still the most updated technology. I mean, I know I keep touting Microsoft. I'm not getting paid by them, I swear. But bard.google.com. Right now, it's not available on Workspace.
Say that again, please, that URL.
Bard, B-A-R-D. I'll type it into chat here too.
Okay.
It's bard.google.com. And you have to have at Gmail. It can't be a Workspace unless they've changed that. So you have to have steve.deguzman@gmail, and then you can use it. And in there, they have a bunch of videos connected, and you can literally start typing. I think one of the keys is learning how prompts interact, right? So this is raw, though. In other words, this is AI at its base. This is like GPT, 101 with no help. So my next response would be ChatGPT, OpenAI, because they have, and that's what I shared with you, John, where they have the pre-built prompt pages and they show the most used ones. And so ChatGPT, I'm going to share both of those with you guys.
Great. And then start thinking, Steve, as we flow here, some real life examples of AI in small business. So ChatGPT, guys, I mean, used it the other day and I said, type me an outline, a presentation, for SBDC for a webinar on AI, and it spit it out, in probably about 3 seconds. It's amazing what these tools that are available, but they've got to be useful. They can't just be a novelty. It's got to be something that we can all use as small business owners, that flows to the bottom line.
So I would
Steve,
call that legal.
what are some of the real world examples and applications of AI you've seen for small business owners?
The biggest one on top right now is legal. They've got a actual, you can I forget the terms. It can't practice law, but it can provide contracts, and it has just come out in the last couple of weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And it will actually provide, and we're about to get a demo of this, so I'll share that with you. But basically, for example, it will complete a real estate contract from the MLS listing and send out all the way through for signatures
Mm-hmm.
to a automation, as long as you turn it on and you own a license. So Dotloop is doing this,
Mm-hmm.
DocuSign, and then there's a couple others that have already
Mm-hmm.
jumped on board. And so it will literally complete the entire process. So no agent is required until after the signature after the buyer were to sign. So they could come get a contract and it says, yep, I want to buy that. Here's my inspection date. I sign that. Then the contract comes back to the seller for them to execute and to approve.
So I think when we start looking as small business owners, it's easy to get overwhelmed. What might you recommend to the business owners to evaluate the different AI that's out there for their specific business needs? What are your thoughts there?
Well, I think it's important to note that the AI is pretty much the same. It's one technology that's been donated. So you're going to start seeing a lot of people who say, hey, I'll install a version for you on your own website. You can literally create a subdomain. And then from that, I would say, identifying what you need it for the most. There's so many different applications: social media, legal, human resources. Each one of those has ways that you can utilize it. And I mean everything from creating posts for your blog to managing contracts, managing time off, managing everything. But I think to get the most use out of this, you kind of got to identify the repetitive tasks that require automation, right? So that's where you're going to start to really see the money saved, is when you realize and go, man, I just can install this journey. So when somebody asks for this, it's going to automatically do this. And if this happens, it triggers this. That's going to be AI helping. And then things like where you can utilize it on like LinkedIn, for example. One of the apps that we've developed big with AI is the ability to scale your profile, which we're doing to you right now. We're taking John's profile and we're making it communicate and looks very human because a human being is touching it. But he's scaling to like hundreds and hundreds of people a day and creating appointments. He would never, John, how long would it take you to get that many people connected if you were doing it by
it would represent a significant investment in personnel to do that. So AI, talk about that a little bit more, about how AI can interface and interact with people as a bot, maybe,
right?
And how that's effective with maybe even with the micro targeting.
Yeah, customer service, I would say, is probably one of the biggest things you'll see, because oftentimes some things can be self-solved if they're so repetitive. They're kind of knowledge-based, where you have a photograph that kind of says, oh, if you're having this problem, do this. The good news with AI is it's a little smarter. It can do multi-languages now, and it can start to learn what the more common requests are, so you can fix those as well. And also you can set it so that you can kind of escalate it on your own terms. In other words, maybe you want to get a text message, and when somebody asks twice about the same thing, right? And that you want to be able to call that person. Well, you can make it so your AI sends you a CRM card with their name and phone number and the key issue. Ask for login credentials twice. Maybe that's a way to use it. I mean, or maybe it's setting up a search for people for houses.
So
It's
Steve, I know you had a background and you had several years with a major restaurant chain, and as controller, we just got a question submitted, and I do want to jump in here. Is there an AI that can help calculate or produce invoices?
I'm testing one right now. I've been a QuickBooks certified professional for a long time. I let that expire for the first time in the last couple of years, but we are doing some testing right now about that. I see that right there. Is there an AI that can calculate invoice? There's actually within this Copilot, I think they've renamed Dynamic. There's a invoicing component in Copilot with Microsoft's 365 that we're getting ready to test for this reason. And what it does is it takes your history and starts to predict cash flow, not only from current clients, but based on acquisitions. This thing's, you can theoretically, we haven't done this, but you can theoretically start to predict cash flow more accurately. For the longer the business, the more accurate it'll be.
Yeah, the analogy for that would be when I bought, Excel, and I said, "Oh, it's great. I'll go recreate a financial statement." And that is the tip of the iceberg. And so, you're asking about, can AI calculate an invoice? Yes, but this predictive nature of what you're talking, the predictive component is what gives it a whole new dimension, which makes it effective.
Yeah, and that's through the advent of speed. Processors and speed now, you no longer have to do these massive calculations on a local machine. You can do it in a cloud. And now that all the data is opened, now it's open for interpretation. And on top of that, things can seem to reiterate and repeat themselves to the point where you can predict outcomes, even for unrelated events based on other. This is something that Ted Tanner, I would tell you that too. If I was a small business person, I would do the very first Ted Tanner talk that he did about blockchain, because that's another thing. And you asked about cost. Everything we're talking about is free except for Copilot. But they're doing a demo. If you go over there, I think you get 30 days free on 365. And they literally have the AI. And for those of you who are old enough, if you remember Microsoft Office Clippy, show me your hand. Look, I see people smiling. Clippy. So in the article I read recently about the release of this crazy technology, and I've only tipped my toe in, this is the resurrection of Clippy. This is what Clippy was supposed to be. And it's predicting things like, I was doing an invoicing thing were showing in their Excel spreadsheets where you create an invoice and then it has other clients and says, hey, that guy just did the same thing for you. Do you want to go ahead and send all the invoices? And you hit yes, and it populates them, sends them, and you're done. And same with writing. Like, I'll be responding to somebody in an email, and because I turned on Outlook and it's seen my history with John, right? And it already knows he's now somewhere in our conversation, he's brought up price of a competitor. This thing goes out and grabs all your competitors' strengths, weaknesses, and opportunities. And before it sends it to you, it says, hey, let John know that they just got 3 bad reviews for blah, blah, blah. I mean, it's like pretty much, you just got to mess around with it. I don't have all the answers because we're just getting started.
Steve, one of the issues that you and I are running up with our clients that we're approaching and potential customers is their baseline IT skills, and are they equipped to understand us? And we've chosen to deal with clients that have an IT department because there's a whole other progression that's involved in getting someone up to speed to understand us, if that makes sense. What would you recommend to the business owners, much like I was not long ago, that needs help? What resources are available to say, guide me through this? Because it's a solution, but if I can't find my way to that solution, it doesn't do me any good.
Yeah. I would tell you, to get the really raw, bare bones and get started and see everything out there, Google's created that AI community around Bard. If you go to bard.google, that's probably one of the best ones. Same with OpenAI. There's been a lot of kind of ripoffs of OpenAI, but they do have their source community. And in there, you'll find tons of videos, examples, and you'll see things about Google Workspace using AI to do X, Y, and Z. You'll read about Microsoft Copilot. I think those are probably the best ones if you just wanted to dive in and learn it all. And it's all free, especially at Google. I would definitely head and use Google because they donated all. Most people don't know this, but Google literally could have kept this all to themselves. They literally donated all of the technology to run OpenAI on your own server. It's just like having a LAMP stack, Linux, Apache, MySQL, PHP, same thing. They donated. It's free. If you know how to install it and use it, you can have your own Chat GPT server and set it up any way you want.
Mm-hmm. That's a great point. Hey, we just got another one pop up. I'll go ahead and ask you, accounting, can AI extract Zelle data and input it into
so.
QuickBooks?
I see that. I tell you what, I have a very small amount of cyber background, and I could tell you that Zelle scares the heck out of me. Because you can send money and it's gone, you can't get it back. There is no getting it back. But I do know that there are some very serious limitations. If it hits the books, you can pick it up. I could tell you that on QuickBooks. I know this for a fact. But you can't get anything from Zelle. They're kind of like locked down. I really haven't dove into much of that currency work. I would tell you though, that's something you could learn about, because that's the little I've read is just be really careful who you give access to a Zelle account, because it's directly connected to a cache. So
you're leading into something interesting, and I'm going to push this more toward ethics. So what do you see as some of the ethics challenges or opportunities for a small business company using AI? And you just mentioned one, that's the financial, but what other concerns or ethics concerns around AI do you have, Steve?
I think the biggest thing is imitating people, right? The whole, we've seen the deep fake with Tom Cruise. If you haven't seen that, there's a whole series of them. Very difficult to not believe it. I can imagine in this age of disinformation that this would be the kind of thing that'll be used. The good news is the professors in the academic world has already got onto this. And my son and daughter who go to Colorado State tell me that they have these basically sniffer programs that know if you got this from AI, and it can source sources. And so I think it's like a double-edged sword, right? I hear people saying, well, you can do the deep fake and President Biden can come on and say there's a we just hit the nuclear button, right? Or you can be used and it can say, hey, don't read this, or take down something that's completely fake, or warn you when something's fake. So I think it's kind of incumbent upon us as a community, right, to kind of make sure that it's used for the right reasons. And for me, it's always been about automation. What I'm trying to do as a former reformed accountant, I'm always trying to reduce my cost and make things repeat to the point where you can scale, right? So your cost drops down. And that's what I'm looking for from AI. I'm looking for repetitive journeys. If I have thousands of people coming through my workspace, if I have, support requests, all those things that are happening, depending upon what you do, then on top of that, you can do things now which is kind of scary. And John, I've shown you this. We can scrape things like LinkedIn, and I can literally extract your verified email and phone number, and you'll never know. And I've done that thousands. And I'm not using it for anything other than as the example and for data proofing and cross-referencing. But it's out there. And if we're doing that in our lab, in our basement, what's happening with the rest of this data?
Yep.
So I'm going to share that Copilot link. Oh, there it is. Thank you.
So lead into because you're right there on the edge of us. Talk to us a little bit about responsible AI practices and transparency, because transparency is you and I have talked about that in our business, but what advice would you say around AI practices and transparency for this audience?
I would say like what's happened in the last few years, if anybody's ever been hit with one of those trademark troll letters where they tell you they're going to sue you for thousands of dollars if you don't take down an image. Have any of you guys ever experienced that? If you have, it's actually like a cottage industry if you went out and scrape news sources. So I think in a lot of cases, this is going to be I just lost my train of thought, man. I'm sorry. What was the question again, John? I'm
That
sorry.
we're
I was reading the questions over
No, no,
here.
no. You're going to comment a little bit about responsible AI practices and transparency.
Yeah, I think things like copyright infringement and stuff like that, where you go out and take people's voices and make it seem like it's them, whether it's endorsing your product or being a spokesperson or making music. Today, you have the ability to literally take Drake's voice or, you know, anybody your voice and put it somewhere and make it like it was you. I think as far as practices, not taking that data and understanding. I think the danger is not understanding intellectual property laws in the US. It's changing so rapidly. I think you just, as long as you're following the standards and you're not doing these kinds of things, which you can do. I mean, there are ways to leverage this in a completely different way, and there's lots of people doing it.
Yeah.
But if you really pay attention and think about it, if you're taking images off the internet and you don't have a right to those and you didn't take them and you don't know the guy and he didn't say you could use them, and you start doing something that iterates those, and even if it changes them, and you start reselling them, and that's happening, and they've already issued an injunction against somebody in Australia who used Drake's voice and they used copywriting. And just to let you know, here's something everybody should know about is archive.org, the original open source everything, archive.org, about 3 weeks ago, maybe a little longer, took every iteration of every melody and every song using AI. It was something like 80 trillion iterations of music. They downloaded it and uploaded it to the US Patent and Trademark Office and made every melody and song in the history of the world now and in the future. And they made a video about the whole thing. It's on their website at archive.org, and they made it open source, which means no one can get royalties for music if you use it now. So what happened? Immediately, Universal Music Group and everybody jumped on and sued and is suing right now. And that's a use of artificial intelligence no one saw coming.
Yeah.
So now,
Speaking of that, let me lead you into one more thing. We've talked quite a bit about your relationship with Ted Turner and how Tanner and evolving in what you didn't mention. He went on to be involved with something called IBM Watson. So he's kind of been around a little bit, but back then, Steve, you guys were talking about the future. So as we sit here today, end of August 2023, what do you see might be some emerging trends for AI in the small business sector? What might we look forward to?
I think the biggest impacts will be things that require documents like titles, chain of titles, any kind of clouding of titles. So ownership, intellectual property rights, the things we just hit on, I think are going to be the big changes. I think impact wise, you're going to see a lot of change in law. I think legal products, as I hate to use that term, but some of them are legal products, right? You know, in certain states, you have to have a certain real estate contract. I think those things are going to see significant because it's already to the point now, if I just put in the information, it's almost free. I think law, those things, accounting, the day-to-day business things. And then I think the creative side is really going to be an expanding kind of place now with everything that's going on now.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I think from my perspective in our business, it's going to be how we reach our clients and prospects. You know, I heard an axiom several years ago, and it was about clients, getting clients. And someone said, if it's important, you will find me, instead of us being able to go and search. And that's where AI can come in and help you find your clients, by filtering and imitating and talking. So the opportunities for that, for this group, for growing our businesses, for reaching out, and again, from the HR side of being able to deal at a base level, communicate via chatbot AI for customer service, that's where the efficiencies, I think, for small businesses, again, with the larger ones you're discussing, because the legal's an entire field. but the automation that AI brings to the small businesses, the upsides is unlimited. Yes, ma'am.
So this is maybe going back, and I might be opening Pandora's box a little bit here. And I guess it touches a little bit on the ethics, and I understand about the automation piece, and I understand for many of our small businesses, recognizing what needs to be automated might be one of the biggest questions. And I think once you're an established business, you have a pretty good feel for that, whether it's generating invoices, doing market research, etc. I guess I have a question / concern, which is the creative aspect of starting a business, determining your brand, your why, your authentic messaging. I have a concern about there being this sort of rubber stamping or copycatting, or like and it's arguably the most difficult intellectual process, I think, in starting a business is really, what's your message? And it has to feel at a core that it's right. And if we start using AI to just sort of go out there and answer those difficult questions, I have concerns for our small businesses that they'll lose that authenticity. But tell me, am I overthinking this? Am I a worrywart?
I don't think so. I mean, my personal opinion is that that's kind of the key here. And if you just keep copycatting, it's going to show up. I don't see how. It's kind of like what you're saying is exactly right. And you're seeing it already. You're already seeing these like Canva. You familiar with Canva? You guys are familiar with Canva. That's an example. They take now and they donate all these creative pieces and you can reuse them. Well, now all of a sudden everybody looks like IBM. You know what I mean? And you look like you have 1,000 employees, and that's not authentic. You know what I mean? That's not who you are. And hopefully that comes through. And I think as this continues to go, I think what we're going to see is more one-on-one like this. I think the AI is going to be where it says, hey, this is a real person trying to connect with you. And go to my phone right now, like the Jetsons. Now I'm really dating myself. So the Jetsons, the phone, right? And we have it now. We can all get on and have a video conversation. I think as small business people, I think that's what's going to really accelerate soon is the ability to get in contact with someone when you're trying to get a direct question answered about the product that you offer, right?
Yep.
To me, that's so different. People would say, oh man, I went to their website and I got on. It's like the Zappos when they accidentally dialed, they thought they were dialing Domino's Pizza. If you guys don't know that story, we went to a big management thing. This Zappos, the online company, their thing is it doesn't matter. We treat you right. It doesn't matter what it is. They dialed the number wrong and they thought they dialed Domino's and they were going to hang up. And the customer service guy's like, no, hold on. I can take care of that. He ordered the pizza and got a 3-way going on the phone, got her pizza ordered, and they became an evangelist of Zappos. Just as an example of a human interaction, not online. We all hate it. We all hate it. So I say what's going to happen is who's going to innovate to make it so that I actually am talking to a real human, whether it's as a group like this. I think this may be the future of, kind of throughout the day to educate people on your product. You hold these kind of like webinar kind of ideas where it's one-on-one and you develop those relationships like we used to when, before the internet, we went to Rotary clubs and chambers and we had, breakfast together and you had a big coming out. Now everything's online. Everything's turn off the video. You know what I mean? I was at a company, the last technology company I was with made it mandatory. You couldn't you had to have your video camera on, So I think there's a lot to be said for that. I agree with you 100%. That was long-winded. I apologize.
Yeah, Angela, I agree with you on that. In fact, very frequently in my SBDC consultations that I have with startups and with people, we talk about AI, and the analogy that I give them is that when you're starting your business, you're building a 4 or 5 story building. It's impossible to build the second or third floor before you build, the first floor. And then I'll even dig and I'll say it's impossible to build a successful, long-standing building, even the first floor, unless you have the foundation. the foundation is the core. It's your mission, your value. It's everything that drive. It's that human touch. Now, if that's your foundation, you've got something to build on, and you can use AI to facilitate, to to optimize. But that's really what I stress with people is you've got to inject yourself, your personality, your authenticity. And then Steve, I love your point too. And we agree because we talk about it. We make ourselves available to our clients. We have AI and they'll think they're talking to us 5 or 6 times, exchanging information. And then, we always offer up, we're here. In fact, I'm going to encourage Steve right now. Any follow-up, guys, any questions of this, not an advertisement, but Steve's contact, put your information in there, Steve, your email and a number. Call us because it is a little overwhelming at this point to think of, man, all this potential out there. But I will suggest to you, build a foundation. And if you've got a current business, sometimes you need foundation companies to come in and fix some cracks. Do that. Restore that authenticity, what makes you different, and then use AI to really facilitate and optimize your companies, if that makes sense.
I like it for brainstorming too. I find it as a great brainstorming tool.
Yeah. Well, guys, we're coming to the end here. Steve, if there's any kind of just a general recap here of AI's impact on small businesses, what you may say as parting shots, and then we'll take, any kind of questions or anything else anybody's got.
No, I mean, I'm open to questions. I think it's better to answer if anybody's got anything specific, please fire away. This is such new technology, just so everybody knows. I do not have any kind of degrees or anything or any direct programming experience in AI or machine learning. I do, however, on the server side, so implementing and installing it I can do, but as far as running programs that run that's not what I do.
Yeah.
So please feel free.
Take an opportunity now, and it's not an advertisement at all, but our application again that you and I have connected on, and tease the audience just a little bit of how we're using AI today to draw and to locate those clients. Very targeted and very specific.
Yeah, so we use some of the tools that are provided with some of the advanced apps on LinkedIn that allow you to build and save what we call personas, your perfect profile of a lead. And in our case, we take that information and we use it so that we can target that they might be the IT director of a company with 50 brokers, so on and so forth. We take that information and we're able to scale that so that we find 50 of those people at one time, and then we message them into an appointment, a live one-on-one like this, where we demo for them a complete suite of apps they're all based in AI. And when I say that, we've created a one-stop shop for basically all of your business online digital needs. Because I know from my own experience, having to jump from 5 to 6 places, well, we've solved that problem. We've got everything in an app stack, we call it, and our business app, and it uses AI. It has a free CRM, and the original stack we have, everything in it is free. It's at rahavapress.com. It's free tools, and if you sign up, everything is free. You don't get charged for anything, and every single one of those tools has an AI piece built in, and happy to show you guys what that is.
Good. Steve, let's jump over and read this chat, and let's start answering those here in our last 12 minutes.
I would say social media from Kevin, that one Kevin. I would say social media management, building calendars and content for very specific headlines, right? So we've got an app that allows us to, it's called Content AI, and it allows you to take a headline and it'll produce content within minutes for every single social media you're on. And you can take that, and that's through AI, and you can reiterate it, save it,
and deliver it, and delivers it on a scheduled output. So you can schedule it for a month or whatever you want, but
correct
content, pictures, it's all automatically loaded.
Video.
Okay, let's go back up to a couple of these other ones. Let's jump back up after your contact information.
Invoices. That's pretty much it.
You've touched on it a little bit. Artwork and logos. You think this is a good use of AI?
I don't know. That's one of those. My daughter's really into that. I really haven't gotten into the whole. I've done some work on the image side, but logos, I mean, I use the heck out of it to design a lot of our branding.
Yep.
I love that part of it, and I use it all the time. A lot of
Any
them
other,
are
any
I'm
other
really
suggestions? Any other suggestions, Steve, to start learning about it? You've mentioned that Microsoft application. Is there anything else? A question directly. Suggestions to start learning on how to use it for beginners.
I think the Chat GPT version of OpenAI. I thought somebody shared that. I think their community, it kind of forces you into actually doing a couple prompts. And that's OpenAI Chat GPT. And I believe I believe it's chat.openai.com.
Yep, it is. Yep, we use that
And
quite a bit.
I would go there to the community, and in there it has beginners, and then I mean, there's a ton of stuff on Reddit. If you're a Reddit user at all, I would say that would probably be one of the best places, because those guys because it's open source, you get to hack it all you want for free. I can hack it and share it with you guys, and that's what's happening all over the place.
Yeah,
You're
so,
seeing it used for very specific reasons, and you can find those in a place like Reddit.
okay, so how do you return search results on the IT managers?
Keywords. So inside of Sales Navigator, which John is a pro at now.
I'm
There's a
supposed to
feature.
laugh when you say that.
There's a feature you can go in there, and you can also do their job title. So if you turn on Sales Navigator, the core version, you don't need the pro version, just the core version. They give you a free version for 30 days, and they have some great tutorials. And a lot of that uses AI now. You can go, that's a good one for people. If you want to see how it really relates to business, as I would tell you, go to Sales Navigator, enroll in the 30-day free core version, and they'll remind you. They do a good job of reminding you you're going to pay. And they have a
So
bunch of courses, and they get into AI on Sales Navigator,
yeah,
leads, how to build these lead
LinkedIn's
lists.
got really good resources.
Yeah.
So jump in there and Sales Navigator. Question: will there ever be a workshop for doing CRM and digital marketing for small business owners? So I'm going to take that one offline. I'm saying there's several resources. Call or email Steve, and he'll be able to give you those resources. So workshop for doing the CRM and digital marketing for small business owners. Unless Angela, that's directed at you. Saying,
Yeah,
is that on
well,
your agenda?
Yeah, we offer, actually, the city of Westminster sponsors a digital marketing boot camp, which is a multi-week course. I'm not sure what the dates are. Shelby, I don't know if you're still on, if we have one
So is that for
one
Lori?
scheduled, but but we go into all of that. So Laura, you can check our calendar. If we're not offering it this year, we will be in the early part of next year.
Perfect.
And we do that too. That's kind of the core competency of our platform at Rahava Press, the business app. The CRM is built in, and we've built in sales automation using AI, so that if people do certain things particular to your business, it uses Google data to pull into this interface. I'd like to talk about, because it's free. I'd
Yeah.
love to share it with you guys if you guys would be interested. That'd be something I'd be happy to do a free class on, because I think that's one of the most underutilized parts of the business is CRMs.
Steve, we got a question. Have you used or tried Copy AI?
I sure have, and that's a strong program. I'm on to one right now though that I'm using that's blowing me away, and I'm going to share it right now because I just got it a couple days ago. It's called, but yeah, that is a nice program. But how about
Can you say what it is? What is Copy AI?
So it allows you to do things like everything from creating blog posts to writing a business article for your blog. So what you do is you plug it in, and you can do things like cold emails. You can say it'll prompt you. What it does that it's really good at is it prompts you. So it'll say, you want to write a cold email. What's your product? What's the message you're trying to get across? Who's your audience? And it saves these things and builds them. It uses AI to do it all. Does the same with images. You can create images by saying, show me a group of realtors around a laptop, and boom, it'll give you 20 iterations and you can save them. I believe it has like one of the best like trials. It's got like a pretty long trial, but
Yeah,
the
it
one
does.
that I got to, because it includes all the CTA's call to actions, is called Texta AI. I'm going to share that with you right now.
And guys, this is, we're getting to the end here. We sincerely appreciate everyone. This is the tip of the iceberg. So there will be questions that come up in your mind. Please follow up. We will respond. It will be us, not a machine talking to you. but let us know, and we'll be glad to get information in your hands. And again, I saw there that it looks like we don't have anything scheduled yet for spring. So SBDC and Angela will keep all of us aware of anything upcoming around this topic also.
Michelle, you got to check out that text AI I just shared. I love copy AI was my go-to until I found this.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
thanks, you guys. I do want to say these guys did put their email addresses and contact information, so reach out. Based on the questions, there's demand for more specific applications with small businesses. So this just opened up a whole, a whole new world, I think, for our small businesses. So thank you guys so much. A recording of this will be sent out to all of you. Also, I want to encourage you to go to northmetrosbdc.com, because if you want to know, can my business benefit from this, which we're not able to address on a webinar like this, please make a free book a free consultation with one of our consultants, and they can help answer that question. But Steve and John, thank you so much. Where is North Metro SBDC? We do a lot of, primarily our business is remote, but we are in Westminster, and we do offer live in-person consulting in the city of Thornton. So all of that information is on our website. Front Range Community College in Westminster. All right. Thanks again, everybody. And again, thank you, John and Steve. We appreciate
Thank you guys
it.
very much. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you, guys. Love to hear from you.
Bye now.